episode 99. Luft balloons of G&BS. Welcome to Gaming NBS, episode 99, sponsored by GameholeCon. GameholeCon, a gaming convention coming to Madison, Wisconsin in November. Get your ass to GameholeCon. Visit GameholeCon.com for more information. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Good to have you here.
I had coffee.
Did you?
Yeah, no beer. No alcohol.
Yeah, this coffee.
Need a stimulant, man. Freaking
Nice.
exhausted. I was exhausted yesterday. I went to the friendly local game store.
Yeah? You gamed like a crazy man, did you?
No, I behaved.
You did.
I did behave.
Did you? You got some gaming in, though, right?
I did. I took part. I have partooken.
Of?
Forrest Gary had a birthday.
Oh, that's right.
He had a birthday.
Happy birthday, Forrest.
And for his birthday, he decided to run games for people.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he ran a DCC. It's a DCC game, but it's Mutant Crawl Classics. But since Mutant Crawl Classics isn't out, he kind of incorporated what he could. So the scenario was that it was a funnel.
Okay.
We all were teenage kids in high school at a sock hop in the 50s at the Wisconsin Hotel.
Nice.
In Milwaukee.
Okay.
And all hell kind of breaks loose from there.
Because it's Mutant Crawl Classics. All hell
because
has to
it's
break loose.
Right. And Wayne, Lumrunner Humfleet stopped by. Tim Verning was there. Venger Satanis was there. Jacob was there.
Very cool.
Oakley was there. Oakley's Forrest's son. Tom was there.
You had a good crew.
Wayne's daughter, Allie.
Nice.
And I think John, who sat next to me, and then another gentleman whose name escapes me. But what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So I was shoot.
I
know I'm gonna have to edit this.
That's all right.
But it was a game. Oh, where am I going with this? Damn it, Brett!
I don't know, man. It's the coffee. See, this is what happens.
I know it's the coffee.
You changed from beer to coffee, and it's completely got your mojo off. Well, let me tell you what I did real quick over the weekend here. I went.
I'm gonna get it while you're
exactly. This is why I'm going. So took Friday off, headed up to my hometown. Did some road motorcycle up. It was great. Really gorgeous weekend for it. Got up, ran MERP with my buddies, and before that, though, we went to the gun range up there, which was a blast. My one of my buddies, one of the guys I run MERP for, had recently purchased a he had purchased a 50 cal Desert Eagle. That is the gun, the huge mammoth cannon of a semi-auto handgun. And, oh my God, is that fun. Holy crap. It's like $4 every time you pull the trigger, but it was a lot of fun. It was like crazy fun to shoot. And I now have a bunch of 50 cal Desert Eagle brass that I'm going to try to clean up and get out to some folks to use as bennies. I think that should be fun. The shells are big. It's crazy. It was a lot of fun, though.
Now I remember what I was going to say.
Oh, what the hell did you do? What were you doing?
So we're 0 level funnels, and Wayne, one of Wayne's 3 characters, guess what his name was?
Sean.
Close. Bretsky.
Bretsky? Oh,
Bretsky.
Well, I was that close.
Bretsky. Well, it sounds like Sean.
It does, a little bit.
Bretsky.
They're both Polish, that's why.
Bretsky.
All right.
Yeah, he was kind of leading the charge, like, shooting stuff. And of course, Wayne is like, well, of course Bretsky likes to shoot shit up.
There you go.
Bretsky did
he died a horrible death.
He did. And I think Allie was involved in it, but
things happen. These things happen. It's Mutant Crawl Classics.
Bretsky.
Nice.
That was funny. All right, announcements.
Yeah, let's do it. G&BS, we were a couple people asked us about this. Specifically, we were asked by Roger Breslet around what the happy hour is going to be, or we're trying to get a social hour going at Gamehole. Sean, what have you got? Fill us in.
Yeah, so I talked to the director of Gamehole Con, Alex Kammer. And if you haven't heard of Alex, start at 1, work your way forward.
We mentioned him repeatedly.
You'll encounter him at least 3 times.
At least.
I talked to Alex. Brett does not know this. I went behind Brett's back. Well, because, that's what I do.
Well, this is payback for me having a secret Down with D&D episode. This is what happens. This is a lover's quarrel. It's a little spat between Sean and
I don't know what you're talking about, but whatever. Brett. Yeah. So Friday night there is like Mertz's 50th that's going on at the Clarion that is connected to the con, the hotel. So Mertz's 50 is happening in the main little lobby area, so that's already spoken for. But there's nothing, right? But there's nothing going on Saturday evening. So I said, I want to do that. Can I do that? And how much is beer? So I got the cost of beer for a keg. I don't know how many people it serves, but I don't know, a lot. And so we're getting a keg of beer. The only problem is we're not going to be able to be like only GBSers, right?
Well, we don't want to be exclude. We don't want to exclude people, right? One, potential listeners. Two,
right. Well,
we
true.
Want to be nice guys.
True, but I was kind of hoping to reward these guys, the players and the GMs in some manner. But so it'll be an open beer in the Clarion, probably around the 7 or 8 o'clock on Saturday night of the con. We'll put up a little banner for everybody that can come in and they'll drink it. We are getting Spotted Cow. So if you've ever drinking from the Spotted Cow, it's a local beer from New Glarus. It gets quite a lot of people like it. As a matter of fact, it's not exported outside the state. So we get people from Minnesota and Illinois and Iowa jump over the border and grab like a 6-pack or 12-pack on occasion. So it's good beer. It's not, we're not getting Old Milwaukee, though. I would be all down with that because I like Old Mill.
I like Old Mill. I like Blatz too. Hell, I'd drink that.
Whoa, the Blatz Splats.
Anyway, so we've got beer. That'll be fun.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And for those who don't drink beer, there'll be soda around and other things. So obviously we don't want to, if you're not a beer drinker, that's fine.
That's right.
But we felt that would probably be the larger component. The cool part will be hopefully we can get the BSers who happen to be there hanging out, who've got some time, can swing by, hang out with us, and just BS with us for a little bit. I think it should be a good time. We usually run into a lot of really cool people. Last year we had a lot of fun, and one of the things that listeners and friends of the show and stuff had asked was that we should get something kind of official. So here we go. We're going to give this a shot, see how it goes.
Right.
Very cool. Next up is EverCon, our special guest. This is, of course, evercon.org. It will be January 6th through January 8th of next year. So start your game year off right. Get over to EverCon. And we're going to have Lloyd Metcalf, Tim Seeley, Ken Hite, Dave McGarry, and Drew Hapley, one of the Men in Black from Steve Jackson Games, will be there with us as well. Lloyd, artist within the gaming community. He's done some really good work in the OSR space and so forth. Tim Seeley, comic book artist, Hack/Slash. He's done work for DC, Image Comics, and so forth. Ken Hite, new guy, new to the gaming scene. Kidding.
Yeah.
If anybody knows, if anybody doesn't know Ken Hite who's listening to us, that's just silly. But so we're fortunate enough we're going to get Ken Hite to come up. And Dave McGarry. Dave is the gentleman who, the Dungeon board game, the lead designer for the Dungeon board game that most of us know and love who have played that back in the 80s. So that'll be cool to have him there.
Star-studded lineup.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. We're like, as I've said before, we don't have the carefree approach to our wallet as Alex does when it comes to people, but I'm feeling pretty proud. We got Ken Hite before Alex did, so that makes me happy.
Bonus BS episode. So what we're going to do, I want to promote the events that are being run by GMs under our banner. So Forrest, Tim, Venger, Nick, Jason Hobbs. I know I'm going to miss one and somebody's going to choke me. So I recorded kind of, hey, what are you running? Blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, do we put it in an episode? Some of them range from anywhere from 2 minutes to about 8 minutes. So I'm just going to release them as bonus BS episodes. They should show up in your feed. We do have 2 different feeds, but If you subscribe to the overall and all-encompassing feed, they'll probably show up. They're very short, 2 to 8 minutes. So if you're not coming to Gamehole Con, just hit skip or heard or played, and you'll be fine. But if you want to know like what they're running and why, Roger Bracelet, can't forget Roger. I actually recorded his first Saturday at the Ask Crack of Dawn. That's actually a time in Central Zone. Ask Crack of Dawn.
It is. It is absolutely.
Yeah, I had to convert it to Eastern Standard Time for him.
Okay.
But yeah, it was good. So then you could find out a little bit more about their games and why they chose them and what they're called.
Yeah, you and I are running games. Should we do that? We should probably do that.
We will. Yes, Brad.
Yeah,
I will totally record you. Hi, I'm Brett. Brett, tell me this. Great. Thanks for running the game under Gaming and BS. Tell me a little bit about your game.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'll record myself.
Hey, Sean. Hey, good. Great to meet you, Sean. Good-looking guy, aren't you? I didn't mean to call it out, but hey, there we are.
Right. Are you going to be GM in the Sean train? Well, you have to stay tuned for that interview. That's going to be
a good one.
That is going to be a good one.
Little schizophrenic, but it'll be fun.
Good is subjective, but.
And bonus MBS is where we stash the recordings we'll do at Gamehole Con, and hopefully we'll be able to get Sean up to EverCon to help me out up there if we get any recordings done there. Interviews and our post-show stuff, that's where we'll be putting that as well. Again, as we said last year, that way folks who may listen to us and kind of sort of don't care, or that gives you opportunity to skip it. So,
if you're going to Gen Con and you want to go to Misdirected Mark's Play Better Games event, I don't remember the event details. I'll have to find that out. But if it's in the program, it's in their event list. So go there and tell them that Gaming and BS sent you. That's why you're there. Tell them Sean and Brett sent you to their seminar.
Exactly. Because we don't want them to be lonely. We need them to feel like they're loved. And they're brothers from our other podcast mother. So we need to make sure that they're well loved. So when you get there, walk up to them and say, hey, Brett and Sean said you guys put on a hell of a show. That's why we're here.
So if you go there, sit right, like fill the front rows in first. Start there and work your way back. And when you sit down, cross your arms and kick your feet out and say, Gaming and BS sent us. They said something about you guys telling us to play better games and go. And go. And just sit there.
Ready, go.
Right. Like, all right, here we are. These guys told us to come here. Now entertain us.
Yes, that's what we want. We want our listeners to be complete pricks. That's what we want.
But to in addition to that, we're going to go along already. Cthulhu, which is a mutual friend of ours, and Chris and Bob's and Phil's, created a bingo card for, I think, that seminar. So we have the center square. I don't know if you knew that, Brett.
I saw it. That's pretty cool.
We have the center square. So if somebody, Gaming and BS, boop, we get the center square. You play bingo during their seminar. You can yell bingo. So you have your arms crossed. You got your bingo card kind of maybe on your lap, and you got your dauber. And then, if you win, just yell Gaming and BS bingo.
Yeah, there you go. That'll be good. I honestly, Sean and I were talking about this off mics a couple of times. We're just not able to make Gen Con this year. It would be cool to get down there and hang out with the guys at the seminar. We're not going to be able to do it, unfortunately. So Phil, Chris, Bob, have a good trip down there, guys. Enjoy it. Have fun. Kevin and everybody else who's going to the seminar, enjoy, have fun. Give the guys a little bit of heck, but don't go quite Sean crazy on them.
Yeah, and then when you sit with your arms crossed and your feet kicked out, every few minutes, look at your wrist and make sure you have a watch on it.
Like, oh my God, how long is
this
thing?
Just keep looking at it every once in a while, and then tilt your head to one side.
I almost got kicked out of a class in college for doing that.
Those guys are going to be like, what an asshole.
I'm not kidding. I almost got kicked out of a class in college for doing that. The professor got really pissed.
Well, right, because it's like an ass move.
It kind of was. She was terrible. Anyway.
But know that you're doing it out of love through us, vicariously. And then Gaming and BS, this is the last episode before the big 100.
Absolutely.
So you got to go to gamingandbs.com/trivia100 to do the trivia contest. You'll be entered for stuff that we've got to give away. Like Forrest Gary gave me 2 copies of his physical actual book, Hero Clicks and Pomp, a novel of Fabricated and the Fae.
Yep. It's a hardcover book. It's good stuff. I've got a copy that he gave to me last year. It's good. Really good. I've got a dice bag from Great Out. I've got some funky dice to put in there. Joe Swick, Papa Swick, sent some lovely goodness our way. We had Corey Wynn gave us some stuff. I've got some stuff from Corey that I could put into the EverCon silent auction that'll go for charity, and I think I've got enough goodies from there to throw into the G&BS pool. So we got some cool stuff. It should be fun.
We've got Jason Blaylocks. They met in a tavern.
Absolutely, we got that too.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
we got a lot of good stuff.
All right. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think we're gonna go long, so let's get in there. Let's random it up, brother.
Oh my God. Random Encounters, segment of the show where we field emails, voicemails, and comments from social media and from listeners like you.
First one up, we've got Lyndon James Borley on Facebook.
His first comment on like, well, I don't know if it's the first comment. First message. I think he messaged this.
Yes,
to
he did
us.
message it to us.
Yeah.
He says, "G'day, BSers, long-time listener, first-time writer, all the way from Perth, Australia." Oh my God! Between he and the mongrel, we now have an Australian contingent. This is awesome.
It's crazy. We got a couple wombats.
Exactly.
Sweet.
And I thought I'd throw you my 2 cents. I really enjoyed this episode. It gave me a lot to think about how I GM my games. I think the point you guys made really hits, like most of your episodes, home on the issues and problems GMs have every session. Should we be brave and try something cool or just stay the course? What if my players are bored of the course? Holy geez, should I spice it up to make it more interesting? At the end of the day, so long as all of your core fellas and Sheilas keep coming back to your session, how bad could it be?
That is hilarious. He used Sheila. So my wife's cousins are from Australia. And they're like, yeah, Sheilas. That's what they call the ladies, Sheilas.
Yeah,
and so for him to say that is just hilarious. Like, oh, it's just not her cousins, right?
No, other people say that.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I thought it was funny.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Once again, great food for thought. Keep it up. If you're ever down under my way, I'll buy you blokes a few beers. Regards, Lyndon. Perth, he tells us Perth is apparently the exact opposite side of the earth as Texas. So is Blaylock is from Texas, right?
He is, yeah.
So we have polar ends of the globe covered. We have Blaylock holding down Texas, and we've got Lyndon in Perth. So that's good. We've got that. We have the anchors to keep this world afloat.
And I just want to say, Brett, if we go to Australia, we could save like a few bucks on a couple beers, man. I think that's totally worth going there.
I know a few guys actually down in Australia, a couple expats out of the UK and Ireland, and a few other people. So I've folks we could visit.
Dude, I've got my wife's cousins literally live there, free room, free board, free food, and all we got to do is get there. And
I'm just gonna say this right now. There's no way in hell my wife is gonna let me jet off to Australia with you and not take her. And so I'm gonna have to wait a little bit, I think.
Well, that's cool. I'm down with her coming along.
All right.
I mean, Susan, I'm down with Susan. She's good people.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one of my wife's cousins is in Tasmania.
Oh, wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
So, Lyndon, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. And really glad you took the time to write into us. It's cool to me to see, all jokes aside, where people are listening to us and where gaming really is. We've had a couple people write us on email and coming in through Google Plus and stuff where they've said, English is not my first language, but I really like your show. That is freaking amazing to me that we have people that are native Spanish speakers or something else, and they're listening to us, and they think that what we have to say is interesting. Well, maybe it's because we translate better into a foreign language than we do in our own. But regardless, it's so cool to me to know how globally spread gaming is. I hear about it, but to have a guy like Lyndon and Mongrel and other people who are in other countries write in and tell us that, hey, I'm down here, or hey, I'm over in this part of the world, that's just cool. I love that stuff. Next one's yours.
All right, Edwin.
Oh, yes, Edwin Nagy. Okay. What do you got?
Hey, BSers. I was feeling all beat down and helpless by the end of your prison episode. So many tasings.
Well, we did gotta keep them under control.
I didn't feel better until I recalled the power trip of putting my own PCs in the slammer. Yeah. Actually, my party did end up locked down a while back. It was the only solution I could come up with after they failed miserably against the Orc Slavers. The party was down to 1 hit point collectively, 4 unconscious, and the 5th down to 1. Rather than playing out their time in the pits, although you all did put forth some good ideas for that next session, they played the rescue party. That was also touch and go, but it meant that they got some equipment and some new friends as soon as they were freed. If the rescue had failed, the PCs would have been moved to a bigger prison further into enemy territory where they would have learned lots and hopefully had a fun struggle on the way out. While the players weren't that concerned about the fate of their temporary characters, there was still plenty of tension because they thought if they failed, they may never see their real PCs again. Gotta have something on the line. One thing that was interesting was that because I had left their entire time in prison off camera, the players created way more misery in hindsight than we could ever have played through. That was a fun surprise. Cheers and happy almost 100, Edwin.
That is really cool. We didn't talk about that option. I honestly didn't even think about it. This is really cool. So the PCs are captured. Instead of worrying about how am I going to run the adventure in prison, he flips it and says, here's some basically NPCs or temporary PCs for you. You're on a rescue mission. You're going to go bust the other guys out. And the tension is totally there, right? Because you're like, what if I'm stuck playing this dwarf I don't want to play? What if I'm now the halfling bard? I didn't want to be the halfling bard. I want to be, whomever the mage. That's cool. You get some cool NPCs connected to you. If somebody happens to die or something on the way in or out, you've got other connections. I like that. That is really cool. Good work, Edwin. I like that.
Well done.
Well done indeed.
Yeah, and hey, bringing the party to its knees. Thumbs up, baby.
Yeah, there's some cool mojo there.
Job well done.
All right. Comments on episode 98. John Steve, Sean Kelly hit a nerve with me on the inability to run long campaigns anymore. I've discovered the same burnout syndrome afflicts me. Excuse me. I've got halfway through Rise of the Rune Lord several years ago and simply could not continue it. After playing D&D for 30 plus years, I moved over to Savage Worlds and love it. But I still find myself wanting to try new themes within that system. I've had to control my wandering urges lest I really tick off my players. Good point, John. I mean, that can be one of those pieces where if you're constantly like, well, I'm bored now, let's move. I'm bored, let's move. I'm bored, let's move. You may have a hard time keeping players around you unless they also have the same level of ADD that you do.
Hey, John, it's a big world, baby. You're not going to get run out of town if you do it. You just have to go online and burn other people's bridges. It's all good. Trust
There's
me.
a lot of bridges to burn. Don't worry.
Trust me. Yeah. I mean, if you keep doing it and you put it out there on Roll20, telling everybody you're going to run a game.
Sean remembers that group. What was it, 10, 12 groups ago? Oh, he loved
That's
those
right.
guys. Burned them right out, he did. Next one's yours.
Brandon Barnes, first-time listener, and I already love your show. I do a podcast with my friends on comics, and we have a similar vibe to your show. Okay, to fail has been a bit of a mantra for me lately. We kind of jumped into the podcast realm head first, and we're learning along the way. But ultimately, I think we're doing all right. Same thing with a few other ventures in my life. I've been running 5e game for my kids, and when I get to see them, he's geographically separated, he says. And our last session was a bit of a fail, but overall a success. I tried to be clever by making a sliding tile puzzle into a dungeon. Totally didn't think it all the way through and ended up having to cheat on it, of course. Of course, I cheated on the side of fun, and my kids really enjoyed it. I already have some things on the list to do differently and some new things I want to try as well. So, of course, Brandon was humble enough to not tell us what hey, he's got a show. So I asked him, what's your show? So you can find his show if you're into graphic novels and comics at www.graphicnoveltypodcast.com.
We have a link in the show notes for that.
Yeah, link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, Brandon.
Absolutely. That's really cool, man.
Yeah.
I think the okay to fail thing, like I said during the show, I'm positive. Sean and I kind of rambled into it as is our wont, but there is a piece where if you're going to try something new, especially in the realm of entertainment, if it's with, like Brandon was playing a game with his kids or whatever, you're trying it, it might not be a huge win for you, and that's okay. It doesn't have to crush the whole everything, right? You can learn from it, and you can pick yourself up, and you can keep going. So good move, Brandon. Good stuff. Hey, and good luck with the podcast, man.
Yes.
It's a lot more work than I thought it would be.
It's easy.
And I don't even do all the work. Sean does 90% of it.
It's easy for it to become kind of blah, and then that's how pot fading comes around. It's putting consistent, work, consistent things out there is not.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. You just gotta I don't know.
Talk about like gamer ADD. You talk about, hey, I'm sick of doing this creative endeavor. Maybe I want to move on to something else.
Right. That's okay. And that's
totally.
Okay. Right.
Next is Graham Meinert. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Graham, if I'm not, please correct me.
Meinert, if you're saying it in Deutsch, it is Meinert.
Meinert, okay.
Yeah.
On the play-by-post front, one of the better sites, in my opinion, is rpol.net. Die Roller supports many systems, solid privacy controls, good site owners and admins. Pretty cool.
So I believe Graham asked in that episode 98, 97 thread, he's like, should I elaborate or on play-by-post? Should I make another thread? I said, yeah, go ahead. Make another thread and just create it and talk about it. That's fine. That's cool. So yeah, play-by-post. I brought it up to Mr. Farmer and Wayne this weekend, and I don't know. I don't know.
Was that Randy Farmer?
Yeah, Eric Farmer.
Eric Farmer.
We've got two farmers.
We got a couple farmers.
Yeah, we got a lot of crops growing, so we got a couple
Which is
farmers.
Good. A lot of gamers to grow.
It was Eric.
Eric Farmer. Okay.
Eric Farmer. Yep.
Next one is by Azrael Arocha.
So this is the gentleman who's English
is a second language.
Yes, English is a second language. I didn't know what language it was that he was his primary. So yes.
Imprisoning PCs. Hey guys, I just finished episode 97 on jailing your players. I mean, imprisoning player characters. Hey, Azrael, I like the humor, man. That's good stuff. And I found it sweet to hear Brett go from it doesn't make any sense and it sucks to it will work if done right. And it got me thinking in that sense, every campaign is a prison. Let me explain. Even though the world is supposed to live and breathe outside the gaming table, nothing really exists outside of what is said at the table. So in a way, if we think of it like that, filling a quote-unquote small space with life where the PCs have a purpose shouldn't be too hard for a better GM than myself. Apologies for the spelling if there are any mistakes. Spanish is my mother tongue. If you feel there are many Spanish-speaking listeners, I have a Reddit community you can send them to. If not, feel free to skip that part. Well, we're not going to skip that part. He can be found at www.reddit.com/r/ROL en Espanol. We have a link in the show notes.
Yes.
He says, keep up the good work. Azrael, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. And that is interesting. That is a more succinct way, I think, to say what I blathered about last time, where if you make the prison yard or wherever it is, the campaign world, yeah, you're basically just a small world. You just crush the campaign setting down to a slightly more confined, because it's always confined in some way. Interesting. I like that perspective. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thanks for writing in. And yeah, I can't imagine listening to a foreign podcast. And I think my German is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's a damn tragedy with us Americans at times.
At least with you and I as American, I clumsily fumble my way through asking somebody where something is in Spanish. Apart from that, I am terrible at it.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of farmers, Randy Farmer writes in.
Randy Farmer.
This is a long one. I'm going to give it to you because I think he goes for the throat on me. So I'm going to sit back and see if I can take it.
Oh, Sir Brett, I beg to differ with many of your comments from this podcast. Please read the following comments as friendly jibes, just continuing this topic. G&BS so aptly stated. So aptly started.
My rage levels are low. It's okay. No, I'm kidding.
First, your quote-unquote loss of agency comments struck a nerve, like banging my elbow on the corner of my desk, ringing as shallow, lumping this in with railroading. Au contraire, mon ami. Jailbreaks are the most creative encounter settings I have ever run.
He's a better man than I. Well, which we knew that going in. Carry on.
Getting down to business.
He is.
Certainly, poorly run imprisonments, for example, your straw man, everything I try, I get beat down scenario are crap. Poor run D&D is crap D&D. Sure, axiomatic.
Fair enough.
But the loss of weapons and access to items is not loss of agency, just the temporary removal of certain go-to options. In practice, I found this liberating in a role-playing sense for my players, especially for systems like 4E. I once started a party of strangers waking up chained to the wall of a cave wearing only their clothing, with the tide rolling into the mouth of that cave, certain to drown them in a few hours. I'm kind of liking that.
I wasn't sure at first, but now I like where he's going.
The secret here was to not be railroad. Oh, now he just kind of ruined it for me. To let them try anything and everything. Thief slips out, uses a belt buckle to pick locks for the rest, and they swim off to start the adventure, which had them gutting sharks and trails for pouches, creating makeshift weapons from chairs, etc.
Chains, actually.
Chains
and chairs are two different things. I'll explain that off.
That one frickin' letter. The players would never have quite that much narrative control of that AD&D adventure again. Second, the why not just have hand wave the jailbreak comment. Let me rephrase that. The why not just hand wave the jailbreak comment. I say foul, good sir, foul.
Oh, to the quick he cuts me.
Oh. To that I ask, why not then just hand wave the dungeon, level everyone, and jump to the BB fight?
Ooh, the big bad. Okay, all right. I get it, Randy. Well stated.
The answer is simple. It is the journey that is most important, not the so-called inevitable escape. The resulting path through the escape is rich with context. What did they learn from their captors or even each other? Did they make new enemies or allies? Were they able to recover their belongings? In my experience, this has almost never happened. If not, what are they using instead? Etc. In short, good sir, some of my very favorite D&D sessions in terms of creativity and role-playing have been imprisonments. WotC seems to think so too, as the first chapter of Out of the Abyss starts with the player characters imprisoned by Drow in the Underdark. My live play chapter summary is here, complete with some pretty impressive papercraft photos taken by my players. Keep up the good work, provoking discussion.
And we've got a link in the show notes to his what he's talking about there with the live play summaries and the pictures. If you have not heard us talk about Randy Farmer before, you want to talk Papercraft Master, this man has it down cold. So, Randy, this is really good, man. I do take it in. I do take this as a good rebuttal. This is good stuff. I think Sean and I touched on bits and pieces. I like what you're saying here. Basically by how do I want to do this? I think a preconceived notion is what I walked into it with. I think that's kind of where Sean and I started. A preconceived notion that it wasn't the journey. It was going to be this kind of railroady, this preconceived concept. And if you have to set that aside, break your brain away from that as the game master and the players, and look at it from a different perspective. And I think we started to get to that a little bit near the end. And some of what Randy talks about here is damn good stuff. I think this is really cool. I like the concept of the journey. I think that touches on what Sean brought up in the last episode around his flashback episode, where people learned things as they got out, how they forged bonds. And I like it. I think this is really good stuff. Randy, sir, I tip my hat to you. Very well done. And gives me something more to think about. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, thanks for writing in, Randy. Of course, we encourage feedback. Good, bad, contrary to us, we're okay with that. It would be very hard to offend us, I think.
Yeah, it would be. And when we're talking about here is, I mean, our whole thing, Sean, is I want to get better at what I'm doing. You want to get better at what you're doing. We want to figure out how to do this. I've got an idea. If somebody thinks it sucks, or if it's a bad idea, I want to hear the opposing position, not just it sucks. And what Randy laid out here is like, hey, I don't like this, and that's why. This is good. This gives me more to think about. And if I run another jailbreak scenario, I've got this type of stuff that will now be in my mind as I'm thinking through, designing, ad-libbing my way through it. How's this going to work? This is good stuff. I really, really like it.
All right, let's get to the main topic. Thanks, Randy. What are we talking about this week, Brett?
So, episode 99. Next week, we're going to get a little bit more kind of maudlin, talking about the glory days, how we got to where we are type of thing. However, this one, I want to talk a little bit rulesy, and I don't want to constantly talk about, this isn't System Matters. This is not that, I swear to God. What I want to talk about, though, is there's certain rules that I was looking back, my buddies and I were talking about this, and I never seem to use them. A game system will have a certain mechanic for something, and I don't use it. And yeah, well, we would do that, but Brett always uses his own. We never use that system. We never use this rule. We never use that rule, regardless of what game we're playing. And it dawned on me, I'm like, does anybody else do that? And I thought, I would bring it up here. And if Sean says, oh, heck no, he always runs, he never omits a rule, and there's no such thing. He's by the book. Maybe I'm a weirdo in that respect. But
then you're not playing the damn game. It's like playing Monopoly. Hey, we're not going to use money. What the hell?
Not quite that bad.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, a lot of folks, and I'll pick on D20, D&D, that type of thing. A lot of people, the grappling rules have always been convoluted, ugly, clunky, don't like them. Generally speaking, if I see a grappling mechanic in a game system, when I'm reading it, even if it's a brand new game system, my
already went there.
What's that?
You already went there, grappling.
What do you mean?
Go ahead. No, I finished what you were going to say.
No, I
said you just brought up, like, never mind.
No, my ha ha ha.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, okay.
My brain just kind of goes, yeah, I'm not going to use that. I almost immediately dismiss that mechanic or that system because I'm like, God, this thing is always a pain in the ass. If it happens, I'll figure out something narratively to deal with it. Chase mechanics. I know Knights Black Agents has them, they're supposedly incredibly good. I've not used them yet. I haven't run a pure Knights Black Agents game yet. They're supposed to be incredibly good, but generally speaking, when I've run modern settings or when I've used World of Darkness or GURPS or anything like that, any mechanics that had to do with chasing and catching up, I always kind of ad-libbed something and made it more narratively driven than what I had there. And I'm pretty sure if I were to go back and read some of the other chase mechanics or some of the different grappling mechanics that I have skipped over, they're probably pretty good. And I'm wondering, Sean, do you have anything like that in your gaming where you see a rule set or a type of rule and you're like, I don't care about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
like,
of course.
Like what?
Well, before I get into those, because I was kind of hoping to kind of frame this up, but you mentioned a couple already, and that's okay.
That's all right. Take it further.
So I would say, Brett, before we go into like the specifics of maybe some of these or even answer that question for myself, why would you not want to use a rule? Why would Brett not want to use one? Like you mentioned some of them already, but why? What is the overarching, like what is propelling you to disregard a rule as written?
Fair enough.
Right.
Generally speaking, the reason I do is because for me, it has to do with the history with that type of mechanic or that type of specific issue. So take grappling, for instance. I have not found a grappling mechanic that has worked for me. So I've always looked at them because of my stumbling with them. They've not been good. I've not had good experiences with them. I figure that I can ad-lib my way through it less clunkily than I can utilizing a mechanic that doesn't come up that often. And part of it is that I think that there's probably the larger piece of it is that this game within a game or this sub mechanic or whatever it is doesn't occur that often in my games. We don't have wrestling matches. We don't grapple a lot in the games I run. And perhaps that's just because I and my players don't do it, but it doesn't happen. And because it doesn't happen that often, but when it finally comes up, in order to keep the pace going, to keep the play going, the action happening or whatever it is, I try to move past it quicker than going back and mastering that quick subset of the rules. because I don't have an encounter that's designed for grappling. It just comes up ad hoc and I'm like, fuck it, move on type of thing. Does that answer it?
It does to some degree, and I don't dispute that, and I think that is a good.
Better not dispute it. I'll kick your ass. I'm kidding. Carry on.
Okay, well, I'll just be right here.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
And I think you hint at it, but I think your example is very situational. Like it is, grapple is something that is going to take place at a particular point, right? I'm going to grapple, I'm going to grab him or whatever, right? But there's other rules that people may forego that may not be like just generally situational. But I think there's a few reasons, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is there may be more than just that, what you have conveyed.
Fair enough. I think
I'll give you an example from my end.
I was going to ask you to. Go for it.
Okay. So encumbrance.
Ah, that's a good one.
Right? So encumbrance, but it's different than grapple because encumbrance may incorporate, depending on the game you're going to play, some folks are like, hey, man, that's part of the deal because it creates an economy of carrying stuff, and that could tie into the story. So if you have gone into a place and you're like, ooh, Smaug's hoard, I'm going to put it all in my bags and haul it off, and it's, 2 dump trucks full of gold. Not going to happen. But does that piece tie into the story? Like, well, we're going to mine this place. And then, what does that look like? But some people, encumbrance, I don't want to deal with that. So it's just bookkeeping to the GM and the players. So we're just going to say, you get all that gold over time, whatever. Maybe you've got a bag of holding and it holds 2 dump trucks full of gold, whatever that looks like.
So if a mechanic or rule were to be to bookkeeping, right, where I felt I needed a spreadsheet in order to track this thing, fuck it, I don't want to deal with that. It's too much overhead,
right,
for one of us to do the paperwork, so therefore I'm not going to do it.
So
that's another good reason. That's another good reason.
So it might be an overhead issue.
Yep.
It may be a rules complication issue, which is kind of what you're alluding to.
Yeah, for me, when the rules complication issue, if we refer to it as that, is basically there's a pacing, like for combat, say, for grappling combat. There's a pacing that is going on in my game. It's happening fast and furious. The combat's going, it's moving, it's grooving, it's happening, and then it just bogs down when you've got to look up some bizarre, convoluted grappling rule. And to me, when you see the bizarre, convoluted grappling rule, you kind of know it when you see it. You're reading the rule, you're like, oh my God, this is a whole sub-paragraph with different charts and numbers and do this to pin, do this to hurt, do this to escape. Oh my God, this is a pain in my ass. So I tend to think of something on the fly. I like the idea of the encumbrance component from a bookkeeping perspective. I think another one that fits that is the research rules. Some game systems, especially your Cthulhu style, when your library skill and research skills, they're specifically designed to help you. I seem to recall some of my Cthulhu-based games having, if you skim a tome, it takes X amount of hours, you can gain this much knowledge. If you read the whole thing cover to cover, spend time studying, it takes this long, you get this other type of knowledge or this other level of this depth of knowledge. Sometimes from an expediency perspective, where you want to kind of move that along, instead of having the player say, well, they just look at you and say, well, I'm going to spend the time to do it. I'm going to dive into it. And if that research subset has a rule like, well, make a roll to see what you get, or you'll be out of the game for a certain period of time, blah, blah, blah. A lot of times those, even if they're not very cumbersome, they feel like they're slowing the game down. So we just go faster.
So
speed.
Right. So speed of progress or lack thereof. Right. So
yeah. Well, I want resolution faster to whatever the situation is.
Right. And that goes to, I mean, you get back into the AD&D days, that's weapon speed, right? Dealing with that, right? Segments, like rolling for initiative and dealing with segments.
Weapons against armor type.
Exactly. Maybe it's hit placement.
Yeah.
Whatever, right? So yes, that'd be another reason.
complicated encumbrance rules that transition X number of weight into actual gold pieces and gold pieces into pounds.
Right. Yes.
Where it gets really messy.
Yeah.
So do you have what, I guess when I ignore something universally, and I say universally because I tend to do this for most games I run, it's those things that's what I believe will slow me down, or in my experience tells me this has always slowed me down for, 30 years of gaming. This has always been a pain in my ass. I'm going to ignore this and do something different every time. I think there's value in doing that and saying, look, I do have a mechanism. I can narratively push through this. We can figure it out when it happens and get an agreement at the table and move on. There's probably a downside to it, but before we get into that component, is there anything, Sean, apart from encumbrance that do you get rid of them for speed or anything like that? Or
I think obviously it depends on the game.
okay,
Does it? Oh yeah.
For you?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, I mean, I'm playing AD&D. Maybe I'll have encumbrance, maybe I won't, but I haven't dealt with weapon speed ever, right? So that's kind of gone out the window.
But if you encountered weapon speed again in a different system, would you want it?
It depends on how it's incorporated. Maybe it is part of the game that weapon speed is a major factor, but doesn't slow down things. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So if you read a new game, you read the rules, you say, oh, weapon speed is integral to how combat functions in this game. It appears to be elegantly handled. I will use it.
Correct.
If you read AD&D first edition, you're like, wow, weapon speed seems like a bolt-on pain in my ass. I will unbolt that and put it in the pile.
Correct.
Okay.
Right. Something to that effect. Somebody could even argue where one game is very miniatures focused, one is not, or you can, but it may not facilitate it as much as another tactical role-playing game. Right. So maybe that's kind of the comparison where I will not incorporate miniatures in the one that is more optional. I don't know.
Okay.
Do I have that backwards?
No, I think I know what you're getting to. I guess
like if it's an intricate part of the game, I don't think weapon speed for AD&D necessarily needs to be an intricate part of the game. It works just fine without it, in my opinion.
Okay, understand.
Right,
I'll buy that.
Right. So if I had another game that had weapon speed, maybe it's implemented in a different manner than it is in AD&D.
So if we were playing a professional wrestling RPG,
sure,
then grappling mechanics, you'd be like, well, obviously, Brett, you have to use a fucking grappling mechanic. Just grab. It's about wrestling.
Exactly.
Okay.
That is a perfect example, Brett. Right.
Okay.
So grappling in 3.0 D20 might be like, this sucks, Brett. It doesn't jive. Brett.
Yes.
No, we're not going to use that rule. I'll figure it out. We'll run with what I kind of put out there. However, yes, if you're running like Worldwide Wrestling RPG, whatever that is, and there's grappling in it, but it's probably a different rule, right? It's just got the same word, but the rule is probably different, and it incorporates it to be quicker, faster, more intuitive to understand.
Yep. I think you
almost comparing apples and oranges, but we just
a little bit.
They just happen to have
I
the same name, right?
I think there's a piece behind this though, is that, and when I see a mechanic like that, when I see a rule system that appears bolted on, and not necessarily elegantly bolted on, like it's just kind of stapled on there, like, okay, that's added on. I described this once to my buddy Zave. I said it reminds me of the joke when the bill goes up to be a law and somebody has paper clipped on some weird addendum that if you stop this illegal thing from happening, you're also banning, the sale of almonds. Like, why am I banning the sale of nuts? I don't know. It was paper clipped on the bill, therefore it's included, so the whole thing gets rejected. Some, the weird stories, American bizarre politics. Anyway, point is that sometimes it feels like the mini game, the micro game, the smaller component, the grappling rules. I'm sticking on that, or the encumbrance rules, this weapon speed, or the chase mechanics. If they don't seem integral to the game, if they don't seem that, by using it, you continue to enforce the theme and everything that this game is about. If it doesn't do that, if it feels like it's just one more extra bit of rules I have to have, in a D20 game, I'm like, look, I roll a 20, I do a thing. I either do damage or I don't. Why is grappling more complicated than that? And when when it seems to break that continuity, my brain says, and I knock it aside and I do something different. I think I do that with every game system.
Yeah, that's hey man, that's cool, dude.
You don't know what to say to that?
I don't know what to say to that.
Is there I think the issue, though, for me anyway, maybe this is Brett's confessional, is one of many of Brett's confessionals, is that when I see a chase mechanic system, regardless of what rule it is, what game system it's in, I'm like, this is just going to be fucking stupid. This is going to be a pain in my ass. Preconceived notion is bad, right?
Well, let me ask you this.
Give it a shot.
Do you run chase scenes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, but why do you choose to forego the chase mechanics to opt for something of your own way?
The reason
it's because does it go into what we mentioned, like they're too convoluted or too hard to manage?
It's usually because I don't remember them, or the group doesn't remember them, because when the chase happens, it's not planned. When you're ad-libbing a game and you're improvising a game system and suddenly a chase occurs, you're like, okay, car chase time. You're like, shit, I didn't plan a car chase. There are car chase rules somewhere in this book. I could slow the entire action down and say, okay, hang on, let's take a 5-minute break while I look up the car chase rules, then we'll re-engage. The table is up. People are standing at the table. The dice are in their hands. Are ready to go. What do I need to roll to see if I get away? What do I need to roll to make this difficult driving maneuver? I think I have to do this. The energy is up. Everyone's adrenaline's going. I do not want to stop the game and say, okay, hang on, just everyone take a breath, and I'll look up this rule.
Oh, so for you, it's because you didn't prepare for it.
No.
It's not how the rules. It's not how the rules.
I'm not going to memorize every rule. Is what I'm saying.
And that's fair.
If the core mechanic can't get me out of a bind, then the core mechanic sucks.
Whoa! Now we're starting to get into some. We could get into some craziness. Like I could call Brett to the floor. Like, well, there's a difference between I know encumbrance and how it's supposed to work, and it's going to be a hindrance to incorporate it. It's going to
okay. No, I like where you're going.
Right, it's going to be too much more bookkeeping. But then it's like the Brett's situation is, well, I just don't want to deal with the rule because I don't know what it is, and we're in the middle of making it happen.
Yes. So you've read the chase.
So to me, that's not a rule issue. That's a Brett issue.
That could very well be. That could possibly be.
Because Brett could take the time to go, well, I'm going to have a chase scene, so I better bone up. And those rules could be just great. Like, oh, this makes so much sense. They're very smooth.
The problem is, though,
there's a difference between not knowing them and thinking they're clunky.
True. That's a very good point. I like that. The other component, though, is the way I run games is that I have run a game with no chase scenes with a game system. And you're like, wow, that worked really well. 2 games later, same game system, no chase scene. Third game, there's 3 chase scenes. It's improv. It's made up on the spot. Everything's happening right there. I do not enjoy going back and rereading the rules before every D&D 5.0 session and making sure I understand every nit and nat just in case it comes up. I don't do that.
Okay.
So,
well, hey man, it's your game, dude.
I know. How long does it take to attune to magical weapon in D&D 5.0? How long does it take?
Attune to it?
I'd need to attune to a weapon. How long does it take?
Shit, I don't know.
See, so right now, my character wants to do a thing, and I want to attune to this sword. Do I need to attune to a sword? I don't know. Does he? I think it's in there. If you don't even know where to start looking for it, do you make a decision now and then just live with it and go with it, or do you stop the action?
So I do agree with you to some extent. Getting into those nuances can certainly bog down the game, and it's like, dudes, we got to really just kind of move on with this, whatever that looks like. But at the same time, if you're running, say, an espionage game or a modern game, the chances of a chase coming up may be more often than whether you need to attune to wield a sword. I don't know. Like it would be.
I buy that. I buy that.
I think so. I think it does depend on the game. Yeah. There you go. That's my thoughts. That's my take on it.
Okay.
I do agree. Like I am wholeheartedly because I am not rules guy.
So Savage Worlds has
they have a chase.
They have a chase. They have vehicle combat and all that stuff. You're playing your mobsters game.
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I got to know the chase mechanics.
Yeah. It's a set scenario where you're going to do this thing. And you know it's going to, there's a fair chance that the chase mechanics are going to come to play.
It may not happen, but the odds
But you need to prepare for it.
They're in a car with a dead body in the trunk. There is a possibility that they are going to be driving down the road.
Very well be chased.
Yeah.
So where I'm going is that if you're playing and you're playing a fantasy game, and you're like, okay, they're in, they need to chase somebody, and they're in a wagon, they're in a boat, and suddenly somebody wants to have ship-to-ship combat, and you're like, we've never done ship-to-ship combat. This has been a dungeon crawl. They just got on here. I thought it'd be fun to have, and they angered the port authority, and then one thing led to another, and they're being chased. Shit, where are these rules? What am I going to do? Do the ships have hit points? Do ships not have it? What does it take to sink a ship? I don't know. Sometimes it makes sense to, that's a shitty example.
I do agree, though. I agree. I mean, it's not like you saw that coming. They're going down to the port to investigate something. They realize the bad guy's getting away or whatever, and you're like, oh, shoot, is there a ship available? I get on there, and I put the captain at gunpoint and tell him to follow that ship, and then craziness ensues. Totally get it. Yeah. I get that.
No, so I think what's happening, well, for me anyway, again, Brett's confessional time, is when I look at certain mechanics, I've had a history of them always failing me and not working very well. So I have a tendency to just kind of move past them and say, look, if and when grappling ever happens in this game, I'll figure something out. If and when somebody wants to do a chase, use a chase mechanic, I'll figure it out. And I just don't bother. I spend my mental energy memorizing other components of the rule system. Then I do that piece of it. Same with like research checks. If there's a detailed research component that's a sub piece of the rest of the rule system, depending on what the story is, I may or may not commit that stuff to rapid memory or have a cheat sheet or something, because I'm like, look, if that shows up, I'll wing it. I'll figure something out that is narratively makes sense. Everyone at the table will nod their head and agree with, and we'll just go. And I think those types of rules are things I look at them and say, chances of it happening are less than X, so fuck it, I'm not going to memorize it. And I'm not going to bother looking it up when it happens.
All right, hey, yeah, that's cool, man. If that's your thing, if you want to be,
you want to be wrong, go ahead. That's nice.
You want to be lazy or something?
Oh, lazy GM. Oh, that you little fucker.
No. I totally get it. I agree with you, and I think I would be interested to hear what the listener thinks.
I'll tell you what, though.
They handle them. Yeah.
What you're telling me here, though, makes good is a good point, though. I think
you shouldn't be lazy, and you should just look at it.
Oh, dude, not that part. I like being lazy. The other piece is that instead of, because I have a tendency to just say, fuck grappling, whatever, it would be worthwhile to take a look at them every time you see a new grappling set of rules, to digest them, run a grapple, do something, like even if you mock something up and just to see how it goes, you go, wow, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, you don't know. It's terrible if you haven't run it before.
Exactly. And as I said, there's sometimes when you see the grappling rules and you start parsing over it and your brain goes, these always suck. And it's a bit of, maybe it's just Brett's problem, where I have a block on some of these, like chase me. I'm like, fuck, I'm not learning a subset of these core rules just so I can have a car chase that is supposed to feel tense. I can make a car chase feel tense already. I don't need this shit. And the difficult part then is that if you're playing with a group of people that are used to you and are used to your style, then that works fine. If you're at a game convention, though, or I've got new players, you're like, well, we'll just use the same research and chase mechanics we've always used. Everyone goes, what do you mean the different mechanics? This is Knights Black Agents. Why are we not using these incredibly awesome chase mechanics? Why are we not doing this? I read these rules for a reason.
Well, I also think there's a difference between Brett deciding, like, I can create tense and car chase, and I'm going to just do my car chase, and not knowing the actual rule. I shouldn't even say not knowing, not having read that piece.
Oh, there's flat times when I just don't fucking know the rules.
Because and that's okay. But I think that some games may have very good rules that are based on that mechanic, and some GMs just choose not to get Like, I'm going to gloss over that because everything else is more, I'm going to narrate my stuff. There's the character sheet. Everything that falls in between me and that character sheet, I'm good with. And if it falls outside of that, I'm not going to be concerned with. So a chase mechanic comes up. You're going to go, oh, this is how we're going to do it. You explain it, you make it your own, and you run it, and it works fine. However, there may be a chase mechanic in that rule book that works better and not bogged down, and it may be easy to understand, but because the GM doesn't
take the time to read it.
Like, if you read it, it's kind of like, dude, how do you know you don't like that food if you haven't tried it? Come on now. But if you haven't read it, then you don't know if it's kludgy. You don't know if it's going to take a lot of time, and you don't know it's going to be uncool. It may be cooler than what you're coming up with on the fly, although I get I do understand the reason why somebody does bring it up on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Are we good?
I think we're good. No, that makes sense. It makes sense. It's a weird...
Because the Knights Black Agents, Phil could get on here and go, dude, what are you doing, man? It's great. It's easy. You like roll like a D6 and whatever roll this guy gets and this PC gets, blah, blah, blah.
So the other piece of this is, I think, so as we're talking through this.
Lazy GM.
Well, not lazy GM, is I want to master it as quickly as possible. I want to play. I want to get out there and I want to play. And sometimes when the game is going, I think this goes into, we've talked about this before as game masters, and the okay to fail. And perhaps this is more of a tack onto that than anything else that we've talked about, is that I don't want to fuck up the game by slowing it down.
I totally get that.
Now, however,
the first time,
if you say, look, we've never done this before, so bear with me, guys, while we go through the chase mechanics. If you say those words out loud, Angela looks at you and goes, well, yeah, let's figure this out.
Yeah.
And Chris and Kev and everybody's like, yeah, okay, this is cool. Well, no, we'll figure this out together. That's fine.
Yeah. Right. A board game, you don't sit down and go, well, we'll just figure it out because I don't want to waste time reading the rules. Yeah, we're just going to move pieces around.
We'll move pieces around. Look, I win. Monopoly. What? Bingo. Right. I don't fucking know.
You're going the wrong direction. What?
Why not?
Oh, there's this money stuff? I don't understand.
Shit, what's that about? So I think that it's a fear of failure more on my part, honestly, because I look back at it and I don't want to do it because I feel that if I slow the game down, I feel that if I'm using a micro system, like, look, I can make this work. I could totally make this work on my own, and I could just go. And that covers a lot of it. But you can, I guess, because I'm afraid to slow the game down, I feel that as a sign of failure. I'm like, fuck, I'm running really fast. Everything's going great. If I say, hey, Sean, can we please take a break while we all go through the grappling rules step by step? And the group goes, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, I just, shot their dog. I feel like a dumbass for doing this. But it's okay. I guess it really should be okay. I mean, I need to stop doing that, quite frankly. I mean, if I'm going to do something, we run into a situation like that, I need to say, hang on a second, I don't know what this is, or I glossed over that rule. Because I didn't know we'd be having a underwater swim fight. I didn't know that. I didn't know I needed to know the scuba rules for this. I didn't, snorkeling versus scuba tanks. I didn't have that in my combat here. We've got to figure this out.
I'm here for you, man.
You are. This was good therapy. I appreciate this.
That's what I'm here for. I mean, hey.
That's interesting. I can see the reason, again, even if you go through it and the whole group looks at it and goes, wow, those chase mechanics fucking blow.
Right.
I like your way better. Done. Then you and the group have encountered it together. You've all tasted it. You've tried it and went, oh, yeah, we tried that twice. Still no good. Okay, fuck it. We'll go back. You know what? We tried to really live with encumbrance. No one cared. Screw it. It's gone.
Bam,
Same with
boom,
grappling,
bang.
research, and so on.
Right.
All right. I'll try. I'm fine. Pass the eggplant. I'll give it a shot.
Just give it a try, Brett. See what happens.
How do you know you don't like it if you haven't tried it?
Right.
All right. Fine. Let's die roll.
Die roll. Segment of the show where we provide 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery we want to share with you. Brett actually came through this week big time. He's got 5. I don't even know. It's like mind-boggling to me. 5.
Well, I had to make up for the fact I'm apparently a shitty GM based on what we just talked about. So I'm going to try to pick myself up here off the floor. God damn it.
We're never above learning.
Exactly. It's okay to fail. We talked about that. Go. I failed. That's fine. I just failed on the mics in front of a lot of people right now.
Well, It was bound to happen eventually.
It was bound to happen eventually. Thank you. All right. First up here, this has made its way around, but a Russian scientist has apparently been injecting himself with 3.5 million year old bacteria. I've seen different articles out there. Some people said he claims he'll live forever. He's reversing aging. He's immune to disease. Craziness ensues. This is one of those, if you're running Delta Green or any conspiracy type game, get in on this. X-Files-y type thing. Awesome. Another one, link in the show notes, of course. And there is an Ontario town that has been hit by a rash of female mannequin thefts.
I have not been to Ontario ever, just for the record. Just want to say that.
Sean has a extensive mannequin collection. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't.
I have a network of
network of mannequin thieves.
Thieves, yes.
Yes, he across the border. He's big on this.
They go for quite a dime if you don't have to pay for them.
Exactly. Again, Delta Green conspiracy piece. It's one of those weird things that you can throw out in a game of high weirdness. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Just good stuff. So the Gygax estate is apparently now under the care and feeding of the Transformers movie producer, Tom DeSanto. I don't know what this really means. It was a weird little blurb I saw. I think, can't remember who put it up there. I think it was Carl Kiesler may have posted it, and I snagged it, put it out in the G&BS community. But interesting idea. I wonder if that means that they're DeSanto, of course, as a producer. Oh, there's obviously movies and blah 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 out there. I saw someone on Facebook. Oh, this means there'll be Gord the Rogue movies. I'm like, okay, whatever, dude. Anyhow, interesting to see what comes of that. If they ever get a guy, maybe this will help fund the Gygax Memorial.
Don't get me started.
Sorry, low blow. Emily Care Boss has a trilogy of romance games, and there's a link in the show notes to the pre-orders out there. One of our listeners pointed this out to us, and I am going to forget who did it. Hang on, I will find this. But Emily Care Boss has made some really cool games, and Victor. It was Victor. Yes, it was Victor Wyatt. Thank you. So it's definitely worth a look. Sean and I do talk about a lot of the big book games, the larger 300 plus pagers. But some of the small book stuff, the indie press, as some people call it, there's some really fucking good stuff out there. So these are universally known to the people I've spoken to and seen and read about as well done. So give them a look. The other last one I have is Roll20 is now an officially WotC licensed D&D platform. So that is kind of cool. I use Roll20 with Sean, and I've used it before, so I think it's I think it's a pretty cool thing. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so what that means for folks that aren't on Roll20 is virtual tabletop. It is a freemium model, which means you can join for free, you can run games for free. If you want to have a particular amount of space, you can pay $10 a month. You get a little bit more space, a little bit more features, so to speak. Like you can use different scripts to do different things within the game. And I'm a subscriber, but you can actually have in-platform purchases. So there are people there's a library that you can, I want to buy this module, and you buy the module, and it comes with the maps and the tokens and kind of the scenario and everything. So that is what is going to be happening with Wizards of the Coast products. They're starting with the Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is in the starter set. There's talks of the Giant, I can't remember the Giant name, hard book that's coming out in August, probably at Gen Con, that they're going to incorporate as well.
That could be cool.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I get a discount if I'm a subscriber to Roll20. Would be nice that I don't get double dinged, but for the full amount, but whatever. I think somebody over at WotC's finally got their proverbial shit together where they're understanding the power of the license of D&D as a brand, right?
Yes.
I equate this to Gene Simmons and Kiss. Say what you will about Gene Simmons. He says some pretty dumb shit. He's the bassist of the rock group Kiss.
Well, between Kiss and Harley Davidson, if you put a Harley Davidson logo on something, you will sell it. If you put a Kiss logo on something, it will sell.
Well, the thing is not even just putting it on something. It's on everything.
Yeah, and it's all licensed. Yeah, and you pay a premium to buy the Kiss electric toothbrush next to the regular electric toothbrush.
Right.
The only thing different is it doesn't look like Gene Simmons, the regular one.
And Gene and Paul get kickbaps for all that stuff.
Absolutely.
So if WotC understands that and they license that brand to lots of different things, like, I don't know, virtual play podcasts and, I don't know, bags and dice and whoever,
it's good stuff.
Shirts and all that other crap, they can just expand it and they can keep their, I mean, let's face it, Kiss has not released a new song in years, but they're still making money.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Think about it. All right. Good stuff. Thanks, Brett.
No problem. Sean, with your 3, which is good, which is very good. One more than I usually do.
One more than you usually do?
Yeah, I've had 2 last couple times.
I suppose you average a 2 roll.
Yeah, usually.
Or a 1 roll, 1 plus 1.
All right, fine.
Whatever. Star Wars Fate Core Hack by Red Dice Diaries. So if you are a Fate fan and you are a Star Wars fan, you can put your peanut butter in their chocolate and use the Fate Core Hack. I'll have a link in the show notes where you can actually get that off of Google Drive.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Scribus for RPG layout. Scribus is an open source desktop publishing tool. I've actually used it when I was running Linux on the desktop that you can download for free. It's open source. And Jason Petra, sorry, Jason. But Jason's on Google+. He made a template because he's used it for RPG layout. So if you are an aspiring publisher, layout person in the RPG industry, you want to not have to buy something really expensive in order to lay something out, and you wanted to use a template, Jason has put that out there and on his blog, which we'll have a link in the show notes. Thirdly, our RPG a day starts the day before this drops. So August 1st through August 31st, there is a question every day to spur conversation, to talk about it. It happened in 2015. They're doing it this year for the month of August for 2016. The questions are a little bit more, I wouldn't say complex. They just are more discussion based. So the first one I think is like, do you use dice? Do you use a die roller? Do you use...
You have to have a couple. There'll be a couple yes or no's or a couple multiple choices. Right. And then the idea is to spur discussions. Why do you do the thing? And other ones will be, so what do you think is a good way to do X type of thing? So Brett and I, or one of us, will probably post this to the community. Like the first one is, do you use dice or die rollers, blah, and you can comment or whatever. And then the second day, we'll put the second question up there. Now, we expect a lot of you to just post to your own Google Plus or Facebook, and that's cool too. But we'll just put it out there to the community, and maybe Brett and I will share what we think of and have our opinions of each question for each day of August. And selfishly, I'm pretty damn sure some listener, and as we throw this out there, discussions will abound at some point. And I'll be like, yep, that show topic, click. So I plan to mine this. So off we go. All right, from a listener's perspective, Pure Mongrel hits us with a Kickstarter to the Magical Land of Yeld. It is a Kickstarter. It's a tabletop RPG based on the fantasy world of a popular comic, Modest Medusa. Link in the show notes. Go out there, take a look at it. Looks like it might be kind of interesting. This is the type of thing that my kids, I think, would absolutely love. I might get in on this. I don't know. So... could be cool. They got 28 days to go yet in their Kickstart. They had a $13,000 goal. They're past that, so they're definitely going to go. So give a look. Maybe it'll be up your alley. Hawk Sparrow, he comes back to us again with about a great place for play-by-post. Link in the show notes there. Pretty cool spot there he pointed us to. And Mongrel, he's back with another one, reminding me, I knew this was coming. I completely forgotten, but this fall, Middle-earth comes to D&D 5e. So that could be kind of interesting. For me, my Middle-earth love is still MERP, the old ice system. I don't know why. I think it's because that's where I started with it and a bit of nostalgia. And I'm running it now. I'm having a great time with it. But this could be interesting. It'll be I'll have to do some more reading into it, but could be interesting. Sean, anything else, sir?
No, I think that wraps up this episode of Gaming and BS. If there is one thing, Brett, that we could ask the listener to do, what would it be?
Tell a friend. Tell someone about the show. You like what we're doing? Tell somebody. See what they see if you can get them hooked. The best thing to do with any small endeavor like this is word of mouth. You men and women who listen to us have been great. You guys give great feedback. It's awesome to hear from everybody out there, and I'm super grateful and thankful that you guys continue to push the word, and it's good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Thank you for everybody for listening. Thanks for joining us. Next week when we talk about episode 100. Oh my God!
Yeah, we're going to talk about why we still play. There's Sean and I have talked about this a little bit here and there, but I want to dig into that a little bit more. What the hell is it about this hobby that's got its hooks in us? Why are we still doing this, man?
I quit.
I know you did, but you're back.
No, I quit.
You
right
quit
now. I quit.
Fucker.
Yep. So there goes that episode.
That's great.
Why we still play? I don't know. I don't play anymore.
I'd get maybe I'll go get Everson to run it for us. He can help me out. But he knows what G&BS stands for now, so maybe I could pull him over.
Oh my God! Did I hear the record scratch from that episode? Bob, we love you, buddy. Gaming and
it's fun. It's all good fun.
Yeah,
Cool times. All right, man.
Well, for Gaming and BS, I'm your host, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night, good game and all.
This episode of Gaming and BS presented to you by patrons like Jeff Rademacher, Christian Sexy Voice Serrano, Kevin Lovecraft, Joe Swick, Brett's Biggest Fan, Steve Day, Old School DM, Forrest DeGary, Tony Baker, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Palladian, Bruce Cunnington, Eric Jeppesen, Andy Hall, Misdirected Mark Productions, Sean Nicholson, Tim Jensen, Chris Steele, Knights of the Night Crew, Jason the Beard Blaylock, Remy Bilodeau, Jason Hobbs, Mark Tasaka, Mirko Froelich, Wayne Humfleet, James Carpio, and the Pure Mongrel. Consider becoming a patron. For the cost of a coffee shop coffee, you can support the show for an entire month. Whoa.
Stop recording.